Modege and Honorable John Kagushia to have our discussion this morning. And I'd like us, gentlemen, to start with an article that is in the Standard today, actually in both the papers, and this is to do with the dams. And we know that this has been a story that has been going on. It makes it to the front page as state stops Kimwarer project. This, of course, is after a briefing that was given by the spokesperson of State House, that's Cancellation, on behalf of the president, basically on what the president had done, and this was a cancellation of the Kimwarer Dam. Now, what the team found, there's a team that had been put out, and what the team found apparently was Kimwarer Dam project not technically and financially feasible. Project was found to have been overpriced. No current reliable feasibility study that had been conducted on the dam project, and Kimwarer project area is settled and would require compensation of displaced residents. So, of course, this has been going on for a while, and I'm sure we all have the history of that. So let me start with you, Honorable Tom Odege, on, first of all, your thoughts on the president cancelling that whole thing by virtue of the fact, quite a number of things raised here by the technical committee that was put together to investigate.
Thank you. I also took keen interest to at least understand what the report contained. And I want to believe that the action the president has taken is the right direction, because why do you pump money in a project which you are clearly advised is not feasible? So it's a bold move to save Kenyans from wasting money. And again, this idea of projects being overpriced, I think we need to do something as a country, because when you look at the Kimwarer and the Aurora thing, it's like the people we trust to plan for them and budget for them were the people who inflated this thing with their cut in it, which is very wrong, which should just be punishable by death.
Right, okay. And a very strict punishment there from Honorable Tom Odege.
Yes.
Honorable Mingo Magara.
I applaud the decision of the president, which is quite bold, but not to skip the fact that money has been paid on this project. What happened to that money already lost? Question number one, are we going to have culpability of people who were careless in this, who did it deliberately with, you dump money where you know it can't grow. Like, if the first thing, there's no feasibility study, technical feasibility that was feasible, that in itself is criminal.
Absolutely.
In my thinking. Then if it's proven, and I'm sure the president did this with perfect advice from his legal team, then the other flip side of it is, if there was a legal contract signed by the Kenyan government, I'm sure also we also consider the issue of legal compensation of the cancellation of the contract, because certainly these guys are going to go to court and they can, be given a whooping sums of money. So I'm sure there must have been a cost-benefit analysis on us going on with it and cancelling it now. We would even save more. Because if you see what is happening at the commissioning of this, the other one, Aron, we are saving about 14 billion Kenya shillings, which is a good thing. I hope this saving could also compensate the other issues of the cancellation of the contract, which are obviously going to come. And I know, even the struggle we have about Kenya Airways is people who had vested interest, who actually moved a comma to benefit them and not the organization benefiting. Now, it's possible also these contracts were tailored very keenly to benefit the guys who are supplying the contract, because they were in league with them. So I'm sure this may have been skewed towards the personal benefits. And that's why these guys, as my brother says, must face a severe legal or punitive measures that can
should serve as an example. Yeah. Honorable John Kagushia, maybe just your opening remarks on this and your thoughts as, at the president cancelling that Kimwarer dam.
Yeah, the good thing about this cancellation is that it is not a roadside declaration. It's not just a pronouncement. This is a cancellation which is actually based on a report, which is coming from a committee that was put up to investigate the viability of this dam project. Now, that is good enough, and I want to applaud the president for having put up this committee and also following the recommendations of this committee, cancelling this particular project. But then very many questions still come into mind, especially when it comes to the way in which this commitment was done. You see, we have paid so much money to commit the government to this project. And going by what we have seen in the past, where people did commit the government on Anglo-leasing projects, and then the country was forced to pay the remaining amount that was in that project or that was in that contract. It is very disheartening that then foreigners end up getting money, almost full amount or full amount, for projects not done in the guise of the government avoiding suffering consequences for dishonoring contracts. And it seems like some people in government have mastered this art. They know we commit and then we push. Because the government is fearful of being taken to court. The government is fearful of being denied financing and credit in the international organizations or bodies. And for that reason, then we are all taken to, we are kind of blackmailed as a country.
Absolutely. And maybe the concern for many Kenyans is what happens after that. And allow me to even put it this way and say, a lot of money has already been spent on that dam. There is compensation money that is likely to be spent, like you're saying, because of contract cancellation. However, for a 22 billion shilling project to be launched, for money to be released without a feasibility study, that really speaks to the fact that heads must roll. Allow me to even refer to the good book. In Luke, it talks about any man that wants to build a house must count the cost. So for us to, as a country, to invest 22 billion or a project worth 22 billion, and then heads don't roll, that really leaves us thinking that something, as much as the cancellation is good, there needs to be further action. Honorable Tom Odege, in terms, and you okay. Did declare your...
I want to agree with the president fully here, because if you look at the cost of the dam and the overpricing, it was double, or more than double. In the first instance, there's a saving. And again, there is a criminal element which must be followed. Number two, if you allow this dam to continue, and you know very well at the end of the day, it's not going to achieve anything for Kenyans, it's also wrong. So what we need to do as a country, let's stop it and handle the aftermath. Even if it will go to court and everything, I'm sure we'll have a number of casualties here, because we have a number of questions to be answered. Like if you look at the comments of Elgeyo Marakwet, senator, in the same newspaper there, it's leaving a lot here to be desired.
And that's the thing, the politicians now definitely want to...
Like now, trying to say that the president should constitute a transparent team, which of course is like he's telling us the report which is given here was done by people who are not transparent. That's number one. Number two, the fact that the two dams were in his own
constituency or area,
county, the two dams were in his own county. We also need explanation from him, because we cannot allow him to try to politicize everything. We need explanation from him how the tendering and how the awards and how these things were done for one county concurrently. And we know very well areas with more rainfall where we need to harvest water. That place is not qualified for that. So let him not push Kenyans to the wrong corner, where we'll be forced now to demand for more answers from them. We are tired of corruption. We are tired of projects which are just being done.
Everything.
We need to be a one country and fix things which can help Kenyans, not just please people politically.
All right, Honorable Magara.
My brother, do you require a transparent team to tell you that the company that was given this contract is bankrupt? Are these not facts on the table? I applaud the president's decision. Sometimes it is good to pay a price to kind of, sanitize our process so that we can start on a clean slate.
We can't live in fear forever.
If this thing was to continue, we're actually legitimizing a wrong.
Correct.
And that's what us politicians have tremendous respect. My brother was practicing now. I am not practicing. Soon too. But we cannot politicize everything else because it started and therefore it's my constituency and therefore I must get. Even if it's your constituency, your constituents are paying double the taxes they would have paid for this project. Please give us a break. Number two, the monies we paid, as I said, is quite a monumental. Those, and have rolled already. The PS is out, and the CS and PS are out. But let them not be out for PR bit. People must take the blame, and the justice must be served. And if possible, people must pay back.
And as much as the PS and the CS are out, sometimes as Kenyans we are treated to what we'd call sometimes charades because they're out. But at the end of the day, somebody needs to do time for crimes committed. Somebody needs to tell us where the money is, and that money needs to come back. Honorable Kagushia.
Yeah, indeed. And in fact, I had not read these comments by the Senator. Marakwet, but you see what he's alluding to here is what I was talking about, that he's saying the government would rather pay money in default because the person who committed government here knew, we will commit you, and then we will now bring this comment or this issue that you either pay or you pay. So either you pay, we finish this project, or you pay for default. Now, what I expect the government to do is to institute recovery process right away from this Italian company. And we should not wait until they now move to court to claim for these charges on a default of this contract. It is a time that the government now instituted the recovery process immediately. So that even what has been paid need to be paid back. And in fact, I remember we had the same kind of contracts with the IBC. In UK, they actually moved very fast. We called it chicken gate. They moved in very, very fast to arrest and to also have those people get to answer charges in court of law. Let this happen also in Italy, the same way it happened in UK
in Kenya. And
about the chicken gate issue. And as we are doing it here in Kenya also, we need to see prosecution which is also successful, not something which is half-hearted. We don't need to have been treated only to the drama of arrest and resignations. We need to see more happening and people really paying a price in committee for having taken country
for having taken that. And of course, one of the things that the president has said is that projects will cease from having new projects, and every project that possibly has already been flagged off should continue and be complete, this being one of them. But let's listen into what the president had to say.
I want to make it abundantly clear, ladies and gentlemen. There will be no new projects started until the projects that are currently ongoing in your various ministries, departments, sagas, universities are completed. I don't know whether we understand one another. Are we clear? Yeah? That there will be no new projects that will be started or embarked upon until you conclude and complete the projects that have already begun.
So that is very clear, the president saying there that no projects are going to be started. And of course, this being one of those that now he has posed. But we also have the deputy president sometimes sounding like he's speaking from a different script, where he has said that he will continue to launch projects. And of course, that then leaves us wondering, are they reading from the same script? Let's listen into the deputy president.
Watusaidie kusukuma mambo ya maendeleo ya Vision 2030, mambo ya Big Four, ya manufacturing, ya value addition, ya agro processing, ile mpango wa housing. Tunahitaji plumbers, tunahitaji masons, tunahitaji.
All right, and okay, there he didn't quite mention that he's launching projects, but he had mentioned at some point that he'll continue. But Honorable Omingo Magara, when we hear the president say one thing and the deputy president say another, and this even with the Kimwarer Dam, remember, he was one of the first defendants saying that not much money had been lost, only 7 billion had been lost. But here now we have the chickens coming home to roost. Where does that leave us as the electorate in terms of confidence with the executive and whether they are reading from the same script?
I think going by the structure of government, the president is the head of state and is the head of state and the symbol of unity of the nation, and therefore is the principal of this country. Without a doubt, his word needs to be carried through, really, by everybody subordinate to him. And I do not see any worries about supremacy wars in here. Because if there were two warring factions, I would understand. But this could be like, you know, even plates in the same pot hit each other, and they clash and make a bit of noise. But what I'm saying here is that the president, it doesn't matter what his deputy does, but the buck stops with him, and his executive authority is final. That is what every one of us must do. And if there is a change of heart, then we can go back and consult, and then come back and give us a policy direction that is now in tandem with both of them thinking. But until that happens, the president's position surely should reign supreme unless we're changing the structure of government. And the other thing is, I want to also grant the deputy president a space that the president has now finished his 2 terms, and therefore is not running for any office next time. And I think the deputy president is also, in his wisdom, trying to get space for relevancy in the coming elections. But again, that's what the president is saying. Can we please give Kenyans a break for a while? Let's serve them for now, clear the arrears and backlogs of projects before we choke them again, because already most of the projects we are undertaking are funded. Now, if we continue opening up some other big holes on new projects, we are burdening Kenyans who are already burdened. For sure, our debt burden is hit the roof. And I think our brothers and members of parliament need to do something about putting a cap on this and stop Kenyans from paying, through their nose when even they're so productive for now. Like you can see, there isn't much productivity that's going on in the country. So what we're saying here is, let's stop it at that for now. Clear what we have. It's also neater that way. Honestly, let's have turnkey projects which people can appreciate, as opposed to having millions of them that are not functional. That's not make economic sense.
Let me hear from you, Honorable Kagusha. Do you feel the presidency is pulling in the same direction?
You know, we have had a very serious problem in this country. The government ordinarily should have a kind of a central coordinating mechanism for what is happening in government at large. And ordinarily, my imagination would have been that the deputy president is the one who should have been heading this kind of a coordination program or coordinating structure in government. Of course, as it were, the issues of succession politics have taken toll in that regard. But I also like what the president did, because by appointing Matiang'i to now coordinate the government functions, he filled the loophole which existed. And people who are in government can understand that. And now,
but was there a loophole, Honorable Kagusha, given that there's the Presidential Delivery Unit, which really is responsible for
that cannot deliver anything. The Presidential Delivery Unit, that one should only do monitoring of projects. It cannot coordinate projects. It has no mandate and legal power to actually coordinate projects. Now, what is happening? From the time Matiang'i took over, it seemed like a political move at that time, because again, we are in a very political situation in our country where the environment is so toxic. Every move that is done is interpreted politically. But if you look at it from a person who is in machinani like me, you can now understand what that move meant. It was not really a move to empower Matiang'i now to be another political kingpin. Instead, it was to fill a vacuum that existed. Now, what is happening on the ground is that all the projects that the national government is doing on the ground are actually having a reporting structure, whereby the county commissioners in all the counties are now coordinating national government functions. Before, what would happen, KERA, for example, which does roads, they would come with their programs and execute their programs as if there is no other force or any other person they can report to. In fact, they will just be reporting to Nairobi. And a lot of times, you find projects that have been done and paid for, but on the ground, there is nothing existing. And that was because there was no proper coordination of government. But now, things are changing. The county commissioners are in charge of national government projects, just like the governor is in charge of the county government projects on the ground. And it is rare that you will find the county government projects not being done, yet being declared as done. But it has been the case in national government, because people in Nairobi really don't know what happens on the ground. They can't be in the whole of this republic. But we have a national government system which should be able to coordinate and to be able to monitor and oversight what is happening with these all parastatals and government bodies. And so it was necessary for the president to stop any new projects so that they can now take count of what is already happening on the ground and ensure that it is completed. Although, anyway, I have been on record challenging that, because I also felt by stopping new projects and pushing for the old projects to be completed fast, areas which were now waiting for the new projects to start benefiting would then be locked out, you know. So, but that is a bit selfish from my region, because I was looking at in some of the areas in my region which had been left out from the the old projects, and then we're looking forward to having new projects being implemented. Then we were feeling like then would be left out. But if you look at it globally now, as a country, you find that it makes sense that let's audit what we have. Secondly, let us establish a mechanism that now we can be able to look at the projects which are being done through the provincial administration. Because again, we had a moribund provincial administration which was not having much to do other than to conduct ceremonies, waiting for Madaraka Day, and also coordinating a little bit of security issues here and there. But now, the work they are doing, I can tell you, we are going to have results. Because today...
We'll have results. All right, yeah. Let me hear from you, Honorable Tom Odegi.
Let me say three things. I want to refer President back to his first time in the office. He gave his deputy too much space, which when he came in and he was trying to gag, he's not auguring well with the deputy. That's why he's seeing resistance. So it's not strange. The deputy used to be a freelance man in their first term in the office. But now in their second term, because the president is also now trying to look for the legacy, or now he's going home, he's trying to put things in order. But he'll meet so many resistance. But let me just wind there by saying that we have a wrong deputy president for Kenya.
Wrong?
Wrong.
Why?
When you look at all these problems we have, the deals and everything in the government, these things are originating from him. But that's why he was defending the Aurora and Kimwarer.
No, but how do you know they're originating from him? We can't just make a blanket accusation.
I never expected a man of deputy president's stature to start talking about a corruption case in a place without facts. That was very wrong for him. Magara,
that doesn't prove that
was very wrong for him. He'll let him defend himself, because by defending a corrupt student like
really
that one...
a political statement.
I'm a politician. Just allow me to make it. By coming out number 2 in a country and defend a corruption case where Kenyans have lost money was wrong. So that one, let it pen there. Let me go to number 2. On the new projects, I want to support him, because we first need an audit of the existing projects. Because when you look at the projects we are talking about currently, they are skewed. They are not benefiting the whole country. So if we say we first finish the old projects, there are parts of the country we will remain behind. We want an audit first, and we be told the distribution of those projects, because most of our areas where we are coming from were discriminated on. And if we wait for those old projects to be completed, we might wait for another 10 years, and we are also Kenyans, and we are also paying tax.
Okay.
We need an audit, and to make us be informed that the existing projects which are being completed are benefiting Kenyans fairly. If not, then something must be done so that every part of Kenya can feel we are part of this government.
All right, Honorable Magara, you wanted to say something
Yeah,
on that, and I want us to move to something else.
I mean, in terms of defense, I don't want us to appear to be judgmental on media. I want to imagine that although it didn't look very nice when the deputy president was talking about what he did speak about, but I think it was depending on the government position, because the government are procured. That's my imagination. But number 2, I really want to agree that, truly speaking, in terms of economic terms, we are going to spread too thin. And remember, if a project lasts for long enough, there is an issue of enlargement of time and the variance of costs. That will even if it means we give Mr. Speaker 2 projects today, people, the soil may never be turned to open the projects breaking the ground, because maybe the funds are not available there, but on paper they are there. If we said clear the old project by month 6 from today, then we can bring in my brother. Then you also see something tangible. Even if it's one, he can do it and tell these people that in my term, I never went empty-handed. But when we say we want to complete them, and yet the pace at which you're completing them is sluggish, then for sure, as we wait for too long. I would want to say that if they are completed, yes, it's more beneficial. It saves on cost and time, and then others can roll, and something tangible can be seen. Remember, enlargement of time also brings escalation of costs, and then the cost of the Kenyan project also is passed back to Kenyans. So I think on the bit of coordination of government, I think my tongue is doing a sterling job.
Doing a good job.
And I think
All right,
we
and
need
I
to
want us to
commend.
look at something different now before we wind up. And I'll start with you, Honorable Kagushia, but particularly because you're in the county, and the standoff between the Senate and the National Assembly in regards to revenue finally was completed. It was signed, and 378 billion released. And maybe from your perspective, I'm sure you probably from the county level would have wanted more, but this is what was released. Is it too little, too late? Do you feel?
Definitely, yes. Now the president signed for 50 billion, actually.
Yes, 50 billion is what was released,
yeah,
but
that's
the
what has
total
been
is
released today.
378?
It's 378. Now, if you are to look at 50 billion versus the 316 billion, that is, the amount on top between 378 and 316 is really the conditional grants.
Correct.
But the 316 billion, one would have expected that, to be fair, you should release all the monies for that quarter, the first quarter, which was 79 billion. But what was released is 63% of the total amount that ought to have been released. And again, you see, this is also being released late. Meaning this money will be absorbed into the recurrent expenditure, because this is money that then would go into paying salaries and just paying bills. And for that reason, again, the counties are still starved of development fund. And so it's a kind of a bleak situation in the country. And because the county governments cannot still function even as we talk. And even with this release of this money, it comes as a relief to the workers in the counties, but not as a relief. In terms of development, it doesn't really go far. Not as a relief to the wananchi, because we ought to have received the 79 billion for that period, and then we ought to have also received some amount now for the coming quarter, so that we can now continue the development work. So we expected 100 billion, for example, would be released to the counties. So with this 50 billion, I would say it is too little, too late, and we are also very keen on the mediation report that is going to come from the mediating committee to the Supreme Court. We are very keen on that, because you remember the Senate gave in as a result of the challenges that are being encountered in the counties. And so we expect that we can also be able to have a sneak preview of what really the mediation committee came up with, because there was a major question as to the issue of CRA. Is what CRA allocating to the national government and the county government legally binding to both levels?
Let me hear from Honorable Dege. And sometimes as a country, we shoot ourselves in the foot by virtue of the fact that, fine, this 50 billion has been released. But the thing is, if it's going to recurrent expenditure, then we literally are, as it were, marching on the same spot. We're not moving. If development projects are not funded, if there's no development at the county level, then devolution really, at the end of the day, is just benefiting those who have salaries.
Okay, there are some realities we need to accept as a country. This country is broke. And even though we are struggling to make ends meet, I just want to refer you back to even the CDF we are managing as MPs. You'll find in our whole financial year, you first get money for the recurrent. The development will come at the tail end.
But that's poor planning. That's poor management of funds. And Mheshimiwa, allow me to even put you on the spot. When you say that this country is broke, when we find members of parliament, particularly in the National Assembly, when it's time for salaries increase, the money is there. We are not broke. When it's time for allowances, for house allowances, money is there. We are not broke. But now when it comes to funding counties, suddenly we are broke. Sometimes Kenyans were left wondering, are you really acting in the interest of Kenyans?
This thing of salaries and allowances of MPs and everybody else is a creation of media. Because some of us who are sitting inside there, we read it and we have not seen that money in our pockets. So it's just being read outside there. But when you come to parliament...
Are you denying that there has been increase for members of parliament on
the money I was paid the first day I was sworn in is the same money I'm earning up to now. So whatever we are reading in the press here, we don't know where they're coming from.
I don't know whether my brother wants to really have that on record.
It's on record.
And that we can meet next time. Sometimes we'll
do the research and find out.
I'll repeat the same.
So that the
money I was paid the day I was sworn in is the same money I'm earning up to now.
That may be true, but maybe it's because of the amount of expenditure allowances that are.
No.
So the gross is usually it will reflect.
Same.
No. It will reflect. Any change will reflect. And I want to persuade my brother to, if he's sticking to it, then let's engage next time, because I don't want to anticipate debate and then you table evidence when we are debating.
Please
Otherwise,
I'll be very happy to hear.
But having said that, it is true that sometimes devolution is a solution to most of our problems. Let me also confess that it isn't also a cheap. It's also not a cheap thing. It's very expensive, devolution, as it is. Third point, there's a bit of wastage also at the county level, and I am saying this with tremendous respect to the kind of value I give devolution. Number three, the bit of revenue collection today, the performance is not right. You know it, and because he says we are broke because even KRA is not meeting their targets. Can we also then do a self-reflection and say, we don't expect to get if you don't contribute. We expect governors to also pay taxes, because again, it is not money that is payable to the county CEC. It is money they have withheld, for example, from staff. It is go to treasury for redistribution. Let's be fair. So Mugala Muwe na haki yake umpe. You give just fair, just a chance to others. Let them pay their taxes. Let's appreciate there's a bit of we are a bit broke, but most importantly, can we please try to minimize the wastage? And this I put to my brother speaker here. The people who are going to save Mwananchi Wanjiko from suffering and the pain of wastage are members of the county assembly. They stand squarely between the face of those hyenas who want to steal the goats, and they are the watchers.
They're literally the gatekeepers.
And can I confess also, in some counties where I've been doing oversight, training, since 2013, the Public Accounts Committee of the County Assembly, not his, have never produced one single report on audited accounts of government expenditure. Surely that governor is running amok.
Absolutely. All right,
we need that. That's a sentiment I want us to run. Please, if you can give us a quality time on that, it is important Kenyans know.
All right,
thank you.
Gentlemen, I'm told we're out of time and we have to pay some bills right here. Thank you very much for joining us this morning, Honorable Mingo Magara, Honorable Tom Odege, and Honorable John Kagushi. And Tom Odege, next time you come in, I think I'll have
Do your research.
If you come with your payslip,
I'll bring from the day I was on it.
All right,
we'll tell me if there is any
that we certainly will follow up and set that record straight. It's now 10 minutes to 8. We need to take a short break, but do stay with us right here on Morning Express. We continue after the break.